"Dad, either you apologize to my mother-in-law, or you can leave my house." My son said it like he was reading a line off a script. Calm voice. Hard eyes. Like he'd practiced it in the mirror. We were all sitting around Jason's dining table on a Thursday night, the kind of night that's supposed to be simple. Food. Family. My grandson giggling with mashed sweet potatoes all over his cheeks. A little music humming from somebody's phone. Normal life. But the second those words landed, the whole room shifted. Even the air felt heavier. Like somebody turned the heat off and left us to sit in the cold. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam my hand on the table. I didn't do any of the things people expect when an older black man gets disrespected in public. I just sat there for a beat, feeling my chest tighten, not from anger, more like grief. The kind of grief that surprises you, because you realize something is gone that you thought was permanent. Denise, Brittany's mother, sat at the far end of the table with a little smile on her face. Not a friendly smile. More like she'd been waiting for this moment. She had on a cream sweater, gold hoop earrings, and that look some folks get when they believe they've finally put you in your place. Brittany, my daughter-in-law, stared down at her plate like her fork suddenly became the most interesting thing in the world. My grandson, Miles, started fussing, sensing the change. The baby always knows. They feel tension before adults admit it's there. Jason didn't look at Denise. He didn't look at Brittany. He looked straight at me, like this was a test. I remember thinking, this table right here. I helped pay for it. I helped move it in. I carried the damn thing up 2 flights of stairs when Jason bought this place. And now I'm being told to leave it like I'm some stranger who wandered in off the street. But the real sting wasn't the table. It wasn't the house. It was my son's face. That coldness. That distance. Like he'd already decided I was the problem. I took a slow breath, and in my head I heard my late wife's voice the way I always do when life gets shaky. "Marcus, don't you let anybody play you out of your own dignity." Lorraine had been gone 3 years, but somehow she still showed up in moments like this. Before I tell you how we got to that Thursday night, before I tell you what Denise did, and what I saw, and why my son thought he could talk to me like that, you need to understand who I am. Because folks love to act like older parents are just being difficult, when we finally stop bending ourselves in half. My name is Marcus Hill. I'm 61. I'm a widower. I spent most of my life building a steady, ordinary kind of success, the kind nobody claps for but everybody benefits from. My wife and I ran a hardware business for years. Nothing glamorous. Just bolts, paint, tools, keys cut while you wait. The kind of work where your hands stay rough and your back stays sore, but you sleep at night because your money is clean. Lorraine and I built a life the slow way. No shortcuts. No lucky breaks. Just years of showing up, saving, reinvesting, and saying no when we wanted to say yes. When she died, out of nowhere, aneurysm, 1 minute she was laughing at something on TV, and the next minute she was gone. I felt like the roof got ripped off my life. Jason was 33 then. He flew in for the funeral, held my shoulder while I cried, told me, "I got you, Dad. I'm not going anywhere." And I believed him. Why wouldn't I? That was my son. My only child. About 6 months after Lorraine passed, Jason called me sounding excited in a way I hadn't heard in a long time. "Dad, I met somebody." I remember sitting on my back steps with a cup of coffee, looking out at my little yard. The grass needed cutting. Lorraine's rose bush was still trying to bloom, even though she wasn't here to see it. That call felt like sunlight finally hitting my face after months of rain. Her name was Brittany. 27. Marketing degree. Beautiful smile, the kind you see in pictures and think, okay, my son did good. She had energy, ambition, a whole life ahead of her. I wanted to be happy for him. I really did. The first time I met her, she shook my hand instead of hugging me. That alone didn't bother me. Some people are just like that. But her eyes moved over me like she was scanning something at a store. Quick up and down. Like she was measuring what kind of man I was. What kind of money I had. What kind of role I'd play. Then Denise walked in behind her, and everything clicked. Denise wasn't rude in the loud way. She was rude in the quiet way. The way that stays polite enough to deny later. The way you can't quite call out without sounding sensitive. She looked around my house and said, "Oh wow, this is a lot of space for one man." Then she added, soft as sugar, "Must be lonely. Not sympathy. Not kindness. More like a reminder. Like, you're by yourself now, old man. Don't forget it." I tried to brush it off. I told myself I was overthinking because I missed my wife. I told myself Brittany was just young and awkward. I told myself Denise was Denise. That's what parents do. We explain away things we shouldn't. Over the next year, Jason got engaged. They planned a wedding that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Brittany called me about venues and colors like it was a group project and I was the bank. I contributed. I told myself it was for my son's happiness. I told myself Lorraine would want me to support him. After the wedding, Jason and Brittany bought a townhouse. Starter home, they called it. I helped with the down payment because Jason said, "Dad, it'll be good for us. We'll build equity. You'll have grandkids running around. It's all family." And then, slowly, I started noticing the pattern. I wasn't invited over unless it was convenient. I wasn't asked for advice unless money was involved. If I brought food, Brittany barely touched it. If I brought gifts for Miles, Denise would say, "Oh, that's cute," in that voice that made it sound like I bought something cheap even when I didn't. And every single time I walked into Jason's house, Denise acted like she lived there. She'd sit at the head of the table. She'd direct Brittany like a stage manager. She'd talk about what's best for the baby, while I sat there like a guest who didn't know the rules. I started making myself smaller. I hate admitting that. But it's the truth. I'd wait for Jason to call instead of calling him. I'd ask, "Is this a good time?" Like I was talking to my boss instead of my own son. I'd say, "No worries," when my feelings were hurt. I'd smile when Denise took little jabs. Because I thought if I stayed calm, if I stayed helpful, if I stayed quiet, I'd keep my place in my son's life. Then Miles was born. And I thought, okay, this is where things soften. This is where family pulls together. This is where my grandson becomes the bridge. But what happened instead was Denise moved in to help, and I got pushed to the edge. Visits became scheduled like appointments. Holding my grandson came with rules. Don't wake him. Don't kiss him. Wash your hands again. He doesn't like that. 20 minutes then. Okay, Brittany needs rest. I'd drive home and sit in my quiet house, Lorraine's house, feeling like I'd turned into furniture. Something that used to matter, now just taking up space. 2 days before that Thursday dinner, Brittany called me out of nowhere. Her voice was tight. "Mr. Hill, can you watch Miles for a couple hours? I have an appointment and my mom had to run out of town." I didn't even hesitate. Of course. For the first time in months, I was alone in Jason's house. Alone with my grandson. I held him. I fed him. I sang him a lullaby Lorraine used to hum when Jason was a baby. Miles fell asleep against my chest, warm and heavy, and for a moment I felt whole again. Then I walked into the kitchen to make a bottle, and Brittany's phone lit up on the table. I wasn't trying to snoop. I swear I wasn't. But the message popped up big and bright, like it wanted me to see it. From Denise. Did you talk to Jason about getting his name on that house yet? He needs to push harder. If Marcus won't sign, everything stays complicated. My hand froze mid-air. My heart started thumping like it was trying to climb out of my ribs. Another message followed right behind it. Don't mention the other situation yet. Secure the house first. I stood there staring at that screen, feeling the room tilt. The other situation. Secure the house. Push harder. And 2 nights later, I was sitting at Jason's table, Denise smiling like she owned the place, Brittany staring at her plate, my grandson fussing in his high chair, and my son looked me dead in my face and said, "Dad, either you apologize to my mother-in-law, or you can leave my house." For a second, I honestly thought I misheard him. My own son. Telling me to apologize to Denise, or leave. Like I was some disrespectful stranger who came into his home looking for trouble. I looked at Jason's face, searching for a crack, a flicker of doubt, anything that said he knew how wrong this was. But his jaw was set. His eyes were locked on mine like he'd made up his mind before I ever stepped through the door. Brittany sat frozen, shoulders tight, holding Miles close like the baby was a shield. Denise leaned back in her chair, satisfied, like she'd finally gotten the scene she wanted. And it hit me in the gut. This wasn't just a family argument. This was a power play. Denise wanted to see if she could make me bend. Jason wanted peace the easy way, by forcing the person with the least leverage to swallow it. Brittany wanted the whole thing to stop, no matter who it hurt. And my grandson was just a baby, stuck in the middle of grown folks acting messy. My hands were on the edge of the table, steady. I remember noticing the grain of the wood and thinking how strange it was that I could see small details when my heart was pounding so hard. That's how shock works. Your body is trying to keep you upright while your mind is falling. "Dad," Jason said again, louder this time. "Apologize." Denise's smile widened, just a little. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. She'd already said everything she needed to say with that text message I'd seen on Brittany's phone. Push harder. Secure the house first. Don't mention the other situation yet. She'd been moving pieces around a board while I was still trying to pretend we were all just family. I turned my head and looked at Brittany. Not to blame her, just to see if she'd meet my eyes. She didn't. Her gaze stayed low, lips pressed tight like she was biting back tears or anger or both. That told me something too. She knew more than she wanted to admit. Maybe not all of it, but enough. Then I looked at Miles. He was fussing now, twisting in Brittany's arms, little hands opening and closing. That baby had my son's eyes, Lorraine's dimples. He was family in the purest sense. And in that moment I realized I had 2 choices. Keep playing my old role, stay quiet, keep the peace, pay the price, or do what I should have done a long time ago and draw a line. I stood up slowly. My chair scraped the floor, loud in the sudden silence. Jason's voice sharpened. "Dad, sit down." I didn't sit. Denise tilted her head like she was watching something on TV. "Marcus," she said, soft and sweet, "nobody's trying to disrespect you. We're just being honest. You can't come in here and—" I held up my hand. Not dramatic. Just enough to stop her. My voice was calm because if I let it crack, she would have used that too. "I'm not apologizing," I said. Jason's face hardened. So you're really going to do this? Over pride. That word, pride, always shows up when someone wants you to accept disrespect with a smile. Like dignity is a character flaw. Like boundaries are selfish. Like you're supposed to be grateful for whatever scraps they toss you. I looked at my son. You're asking me to apologize to a woman who has talked down to me in your house for months. She's my wife's mother, he snapped. And I'm your father, I said, quieter. That should still mean something. Denise made a little sound, like a laugh without the joy. Jason, you see what I mean? He always makes it about him. I felt the anger rise, but it wasn't hot. It was cold, clean, the kind that shows up when you finally accept the truth. Jason pointed toward the front door. Dad, apologize. Or get out. I stared at him for a long second. My mind flashed through years like pictures, teaching him how to ride a bike, holding him up when he scraped his knee, sitting next to him at the kitchen table helping with homework while Lorraine made cornbread in the oven, driving all night to pick him up from college when his car broke down. Every time I showed up, every time I gave, every time I told myself love meant endurance. And I realized something that hurt more than anything Denise had ever said. Jason wasn't just repeating Denise's words. He was choosing them. I picked up my coat from the back of the chair. I took my keys from the table. I didn't slam anything. I didn't curse. I didn't beg. I walked around the table, not toward the door yet, toward Denise. Brittany's eyes lifted for the first time, wide with panic. "Marcus, please," she whispered, like she thought I was about to explode. I wasn't. Denise looked up at me, chin raised, that same confident little smile. She thought she'd won. I stood beside her chair, close enough that she could see I wasn't afraid of her, but not so close that she could claim I threatened her. I leaned down just slightly, so my words would be for her alone. And I said 3 words. Keep him then. Her smile froze like ice cracking. Her eyes blinked fast, confused, offended, suddenly unsure. What did you say? Jason demanded. I straightened up and looked at my son. My voice stayed even. I said keep him. Keep the version of my son you helped create. The one who thinks love means control and respect is optional. Denise's face flushed. How dare you? Jason's voice rose, sharp and desperate. Dad, you're embarrassing yourself. I nodded once, like I was taking note. No, I said. I'm finally seeing clearly. Miles started crying, loud now, startled by the noise. Brittany bounced him, tears sliding down her face, whispering, it's okay, but nobody was okay. Not really. I walked to the front door. Jason followed me fast, like he still believed he could pull me back with force. If you leave, he said, voice shaking, don't come back. I paused with my hand on the knob. My throat tightened, but I didn't let it show. I turned my head just enough to look at him over my shoulder. Son, I said, I've been leaving for a while. Tonight you just finally said it out loud. Then I walked out. The night air hit my face, and I inhaled like I'd been underwater. My hands shook when I got to my car. Not from fear, more like my body finally caught up to what my heart already knew. I sat there for a minute, staring at Jason's porch light, listening to the muffled sound of Miles crying inside. I wanted to turn around. I wanted to knock again. I wanted to fix it the way I always did. But the text message on Brittany's phone flashed in my mind again. Secure the house first. So I drove home. The silence in my house was heavy, but it was mine. I walked in, locked the door, and leaned against it like my legs forgot how to hold me. I didn't cry right away. I went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stood there in the dark, listening to the refrigerator hum. Lorraine used to say the kitchen was the heart of a home. That night it felt like a hollow room. The next morning I woke up at 5:30 out of habit. No calls. No messages. Nothing. I waited through breakfast, through lunch, through the afternoon. My phone stayed quiet. By day 3, I understood the punishment. The silence was supposed to break me. It was supposed to make me come crawling back with an apology ready, a checkbook open, my pride folded small. I cleaned my house like I was scrubbing away years of swallowing my words. I boxed up old clothes. I threw out junk drawers. I went through Lorraine's closet and sat on the floor with her sweater in my hands until my chest finally cracked open and I let myself cry. Not just for her, but for the family I thought I still had. On day 7, Brittany called. Her voice sounded thin. "Mr. Hill, I'm sorry about what happened. I didn't answer right away. I didn't trust myself." She swallowed. "Denise is. She's been saying things. Jason's been angry. Everything's a mess. Is Miles okay?" I asked. That's what mattered. "He's okay," she said quickly. "He misses you." He reaches for the door when he hears a car outside. That put a stone in my stomach. "Why are you calling me, Brittany?" There was a pause. Then her voice dropped. "Because I'm starting to realize this isn't just about you and Denise. There are things Jason hasn't told me. Things I didn't want to see." My pulse picked up. "Like what?" "I can't say it on the phone," she whispered. "I'm scared she's listening." Before I could respond, the line went dead. I stared at my phone like it had turned into something dangerous. My mind went back to that second message. Don't mention the other situation yet. The other situation. 2 more days passed. No Brittany. No Jason. Nothing. Then, exactly 2 weeks after that Thursday night, I was sitting in my living room with the TV on low, and a cup of tea I wasn't drinking when I heard pounding on my front door. Not a polite knock. Not a neighbor. Not a delivery. A frantic, desperate pounding like the world was falling apart. "Dad!" a voice shouted through the wood. "Dad, please. Open the door." I froze for half a second, mug halfway to my mouth, like my brain needed time to accept what my ears were hearing. That wasn't a casual knock. That was panic. That was a man beating on a door like the police were behind him, or the ground was opening under his feet. "Dad, please, open up." I set the mug down so careful it's almost funny, like I was scared the sound of ceramic onward might shatter whatever thin piece I'd built the last 2 weeks. My heart was running, but my feet moved slow. I didn't rush. I didn't want him to smell fear on me. I walked to the door, looked through the peephole, and there he was, my son. Jason looked like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red, his face was puffy. His hair was standing up in uneven patches like he'd been pulling at it. He had on a hoodie and jeans like he'd thrown them on without thinking. He kept glancing over his shoulder like somebody might be watching him. I kept my hand on the deadbolt for a second longer than necessary, because I needed to feel that I still had control of something. Then I unlocked it. The door swung open, and Jason practically fell forward into my entryway like his knees gave out the second he crossed my threshold. "Dad!" he breathed, and his voice cracked on that one word. I stepped back just enough to give him space. My first instinct, my old instinct, was to grab him, pull him in, hold him like he was a kid again, the same way I did when he'd come home crying after a fight at school. But I didn't move. I watched him. I let the moment show me who he was right now. He stared at my face like he expected me to slam the door in his. I'm sorry, he said fast, like he was paying a toll to get through. I need help. There it was. Not, I miss you. Not, I was wrong. Help. He looked past me into the house like the walls might offer him shelter. I could smell sweat on him, that sour, anxious smell people get when they've been running on adrenaline too long. Come in, I said, and my voice sounded calmer than I felt. He stepped inside like a man stepping onto the last piece of land after a storm. I closed the door behind him and locked it. Not to trap him. Just to remind myself this was still my home. He moved into my living room and dropped onto the couch hard, elbows on knees, hands shaking. He rubbed his palms down his face like he was trying to wipe off whatever was happening. "Dad," he kept saying, like the word alone might fix things. "Dad, something is wrong." I stood there a second, watching him unravel on my furniture, under the same lamp Lorraine picked out years ago. Then I turned and went to the kitchen. I didn't do it to be cold. I did it because I needed a second to breathe without him looking at me. My hands were steady, but my chest was tight. I put the kettle on and grabbed the chamomile tea. The kind I used to make him when he was little and couldn't sleep before a school trip. I could hear him in the other room breathing too fast, the way people do when they're trying not to cry. When I came back, he was still hunched forward, staring at the floor like it might tell him what to do next. I set the tea on the coffee table. "Drink," I said. "Slow down." He grabbed the mug with both hands, like warmth was the only thing keeping him together. He took a long sip and swallowed hard. "Dad, I don't understand," he said, words tumbling out now. "This morning my card got declined. Like, just declined. I thought it was a glitch. I called the bank and they told me my accounts are frozen. All of them. They said it's an order. An order, Dad." He looked up at me, eyes wide, wet, scared in a way I hadn't seen since he was a kid. "Who freezes somebody's accounts? I haven't done anything. I stayed quiet. Not because I didn't have answers. Because I needed him to say everything out loud." He shook his head like he couldn't believe his own life. "Then I get this call from some lawyer, talking about the house, saying there's some kind of, I don't even know, an embargo? Like the house might get seized. Dad, how? I've been paying. I've been paying everything." His voice jumped higher, edged with anger now, because fear always turns into anger when people don't know where to put it. He took another sip, but his hands were shaking so bad the tea sloshed. "And then," he stopped and swallowed, throat working. "Then Brittany served me divorce papers. That one landed heavy in my stomach, even though I'd been expecting it. Not because I wanted it. Because I'd seen the cracks. Official papers," he went on. "Not just her yelling. Like a real lawyer, Dad. She's asking for custody, child support, all of it. She got serious." He laughed once, but it wasn't funny. It sounded like a man choking. "And I don't even know how she paid for a lawyer like that." He looked at me again, searching my face. My silence must have been loud, because his eyes narrowed a little. "And Andrea," his voice dropped on her name, like it hurt his tongue to say it. "Andrea left." He stared at the mug in his hands like it betrayed him. "She said she can't be with somebody whose life is falling apart. She said she didn't sign up for this." His shoulders sagged. "She just walked away. Like I didn't matter. I sat down across from him, not too close. Close enough to be present. Keep going, I said. He wiped his face with the back of his hand, like he hated the tears. And my job, he said, breath catching. Dad, my job called me in. They said there's an internal investigation. Somebody sent in stuff about my trips. About me. Using work travel to see Andrea. They said I was expensing things I shouldn't. Hotels. Dinners. I thought it didn't matter. Everybody does that. He looked at me like a kid caught stealing. They said I could lose my job. Dad, I could lose everything. He stood up suddenly and paced, hands in his hair, voice rising again. And Denise won't answer my calls. Her mom either. Denise acted like she ran everything, like she was the boss of my house. But now she's gone. She won't even pick up. Brittany's mom? Denise? She disappeared like she never existed. He stopped pacing and turned to me, breathing hard. So I went to the bank, he said. The manager said the freeze is tied to your accounts, to Dad's estate. He said something about trusts and legal protections. He said the freeze came from a clause being activated. He stepped closer, eyes locked on mine now. And then I called Mr. Grayson, your lawyer, and he confirmed it. He said you went in there and signed something. Dad, you did this. The room went still. The clock over the hallway ticked loud. Jason's chest was heaving like he'd just sprinted up a hill. Why? He demanded, and his voice cracked. Why are you doing this to me? He looked like he wanted me to deny it so he could be mad at the universe instead. Why are you trying to ruin me? I stared at him for a long moment, and I could feel two versions of myself pulling. The father who wanted to protect his son from every sharp edge, and the man who finally understood that protecting somebody from consequences is how you raise them to hurt people. I stood up slow. I walked to the kitchen and took one steady breath, because I wasn't about to have this conversation from a place of emotion. Then I came back and faced him. Jason, I said, voice quiet, I'm not doing anything to you. His face twisted. Yes, you are. My accounts. Listen, I cut in, not yelling, just firm. You came to my house pounding like your life is ending. So before we talk about blame, we're going to talk about facts. He stared at me, jaw tight, eyes shining. I nodded toward the couch. Sit down. He hesitated, then dropped back onto the cushion like his legs gave up. I didn't sit right away. I stood there looking at him, my son, grown, scared, still expecting somebody to rescue him. I activated what your mother and I put in place, I said. What your mama, Lorraine, would have told me to do if she was still here. His eyes flickered at her name. Dad, what does that even mean? I walked toward my study, opened the drawer where I kept my folders, and pulled out a thick packet I'd been organizing since that first night I walked out of his house. I brought it back and set it on the coffee table between us like a line. Open it, I said. Jason's hands trembled as he reached for the folder. He looked up at me one more time, like he still hoped I'd stop him. I didn't. He flipped it open, pages sliding under his fingers. Legal language. Copies. Stamps. He swallowed hard. Dad, he whispered. What is this? I took a breath and leaned forward just slightly, my voice steady as a straight road. It's the truth, I said. And if you're ready to hear it, come closer. We need to talk. I didn't sleep after that call. Not really. I laid there with the TV on low, the remote in my hand, watching the same late-night news loop like it could tell me what to do. My wife's ring sat in the little velvet box on my dresser, like it had a pulse. I kept looking at it, like it was going to blink at me and say, "Don't be stupid, Marcus." The next morning, I got up early and did the thing I always do when I'm scared. I cleaned. I wiped down counters that were already clean. I folded towels that didn't need folding. I stood in the kitchen staring at the coffee maker, realizing I'd made coffee for 2 people for so long that making 1 cup still felt wrong. Then I checked my phone again, even though I knew there wouldn't be a new message. There wasn't. My son had gone quiet since the day I told him no about the house transfer. Silence was his way of punishing me. He learned that somewhere, because it didn't come from me or his mother. Around 10, I drove to Mr. Hollis's office. Hollis wasn't some flashy downtown lawyer. He was the kind of man who kept his suits simple and his words sharp. Older black man, salt and pepper hair, calm eyes that looked like they'd seen every version of family drama you could imagine. The first time my wife and I met him, he told us something that stuck. Love is not the same thing as access. That morning he sat across from me, hands folded, listening while I explained everything. The wedding money, the down payment, the "just one more thing" requests, the sudden push to put my property in my son's name. I didn't dress it up. I didn't try to make my son sound better than he was. It actually hurt to speak plain. When I finished, Hollis exhaled slow. "Marcus," he said, "your wife set this up the way she did for a reason. And you already know that reason." I nodded, but my throat felt tight. He slid a folder toward me. "Here's what you need to understand. If you sign over the house, that's not a gift you can take back. If your son sells it, if he borrows against it, if he gets sued, if he gets divorced, your name being off that deed means your voice is off that decision." "He wouldn't do that," I said automatically, and the second it left my mouth I hated myself for it. Hollis didn't even flinch. Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he would. But this isn't about what you hope he is. It's about what the paperwork allows him to become. He leaned forward a little. "You already gave him money. A lot of it. That was you supporting your child. But this house is not a bill. It's your safety. And if someone is pressuring you, I want you to be honest about that. Pressure is not love." I stared at the folder. The words felt heavy because they were true. And the worst part was, they weren't new. They were just the truth I'd been dodging. "So what do I do?" I asked. Hollis tapped the folder. "You hold your ground. And you protect what your wife left you. If you want to help your grandson, you can do it in ways that don't hand over your entire life. But you don't sign that deed, Marcus. Not unless you're ready to live with the consequences." I left his office with a strange feeling in my chest. Not peace yet. More like a backbone forming. Like something inside me had been soft for too long and was finally stiffening up. That afternoon my son called me. His voice sounded casual, like he was calling about a game. That's how he did it. Smooth first, then sharp later. "Dad," he said, "you got a minute?" "I got a minute," I replied. He cleared his throat. "Bria's been stressed. The baby's been up all night. Her mom says we need stability, you know? We need to get everything organized." "Organized how?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Well, the house. Your place. It's just. It would make everything easier if it was in my name. I could refinance, consolidate, invest, make it grow. I'm thinking long-term, Dad." I let him talk. I let him build the argument like he was stacking boxes. Then I said, I met with Hollis today. Silence. A small one, but it was there. You did? My son asked. I did, I said. And he told me exactly what that transfer would mean. My son's tone shifted just a little. Dad, Hollis is old school. He's paranoid. No, I said quietly. He's careful. Okay, my son said, and I could hear the impatience now. So what? You're just gonna sit on everything? You're gonna die with it all locked up? That's what Mom would have wanted. When he brought my wife into it, something in me went cold. That was the line. Using her memory like a crowbar. Don't do that, I said. Don't speak for your mother. He sighed like I was being dramatic. I'm just saying, you're alone in that big house. You don't even use all that space. I use my piece, I said. And I'm not signing anything. He didn't yell right away. He didn't have to. His voice got flat, controlled. So you're choosing a building over your son. I gripped the phone tighter. I'm choosing boundaries. You hear yourself? He snapped. Bria's mom is right about you. You're stuck. You're holding on to things because you don't have anything else. I felt my jaw clench. The anger wasn't loud, but it was steady. Tell Bria's mom to mind her business. She is our business, he said. She's family now. There it was again. That framing. Like I was the outsider in my own life. Listen, my son continued softer again. We're coming by Thursday. Bria's cooking. Her mom will be there too. We all need to talk like adults. It didn't sound like an invitation. It sounded like a setup. I paused, and I heard my own breath in my ear. Fine, I said. Thursday. After we hung up, I sat on my couch and stared at nothing for a long time. I kept thinking about the way he said, like adults, like I'd been a child this whole time, like my grief made me weak, like my love made me stupid. That's when my phone rang again, an unknown number. Hello, I answered. Mr. Carter? A woman asked. Her voice was careful, like she wasn't sure I was safe to speak to. Yes, I said. Who is this? My name is Denise Walker, she said. I work with your son. At the logistics company. My stomach tightened immediately. Is he okay? Oh, yes, she said quickly. He's fine. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. It's just, I need to talk to you. In person, if possible. In person, I repeated. Yes, she said. Because it's sensitive. And I don't want to say it over the phone. I stood up without realizing it. Why are you calling me? There was a pause on her end. When she spoke again, her voice dropped even lower. Because I've been where you are, she said. And I wish someone had told me sooner. My throat went dry. Told you what? Another pause. Then she said, Your son has been traveling to Dallas twice a month. He says it's work. My mind flashed to little comments I'd ignored. Yeah, I said slowly. That's what he told me. Denise exhaled. It's not always work, she said. And I think you deserve to know who he's been meeting there. I couldn't move. What are you talking about? Can we meet? She asked. Tomorrow. 11. There's a cafe off Highway 75, near the old theater. I'll show you. I should have said no. I should have protected my heart. But my heart had already been taking hits for months, and my body was tired of pretending. Okay, I said. Tomorrow at 11. That night, I didn't turn the TV on. I sat in the dark living room with one lamp glowing, listening to the hum of my refrigerator like it was the only thing alive in the house. I kept telling myself Denise could be wrong, could be mistaken, could be stirring drama. But deep down, I already felt it, the shape of something ugly that had been hiding in plain sight. The next morning, I arrived early. I ordered black coffee and didn't touch it. My hands kept rubbing together like I was trying to warm them up. At exactly 11, Denise walked in. Mid-40s, short natural hair, grey blazer, eyes that looked tired but honest. She didn't smile. She sat down across from me and pulled out her phone. "Mr. Carter," she said softly, "I'm sorry." Then she turned the phone toward me. On the screen was a photo of my son sitting in a restaurant booth, his arm wrapped around a young woman with honey-brown skin and long curls. She was laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. And my son was looking at her the way a man looks when he thinks he's finally gotten what he wants. I stared at that picture until my vision blurred, because in that single moment, everything I'd been trying not to believe finally had a face. I sat there in that cafe like my body forgot how to work. The photo stayed on Denise's screen, bright and casual, like it was no big deal. Like it wasn't a grenade rolled right onto my table. My son's arm was around that woman's shoulders, pulled in close. Not a co-worker lean. Not a "we just ran into each other" angle. It was intimate, possessive, the kind of touch you don't give unless you feel entitled to someone's space. My mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. Denise didn't rush me. She just watched me with that tired kind of patience you only have when you've lived through your own mess and you're trying not to drag somebody else into it. Finally, I cleared my throat. "Who is she?" I asked, and my voice sounded smaller than I meant it to. Denise tapped the screen and zoomed in like she'd done it 100 times. "Her name's Tosha," she said. "Tosha Reed. She works out of the Dallas branch. Operations. She's been there a couple years." I stared at the name like I could shake it loose from reality. "How long?" I asked. Denise hesitated just enough for my stomach to drop even further. "I can't swear a date," she said carefully, "but I've been hearing whispers close to a year. Maybe more. People see them when he travels. Dinner. Hotels. Weekend stuff that doesn't look like work." My hands were on the table now, gripping the edge like it was keeping me upright. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked again, because I needed to hear the reason twice before I could accept it. Denise's eyes softened. "Because I got played once," she said. "And the only reason I got out before I lost everything is because somebody warned me. And because—" She paused, then sighed. "Because your son talks. He talks about money like it's already in his pocket. He jokes that you're getting older and that it's just a matter of time before everything is his. He's been asking around about property and trusts and how fast things transfer when a parent passes." That last word, passes, hit me like a fist. I sat back, dizzy. I heard my wife's voice in my head, clear as day. "Marcus, don't let anybody rush you into giving away your peace." Denise reached into her bag and slid a napkin across the table. On it she'd written a name, an office address, and a couple numbers. "If you want to verify," she said, "that's the Dallas branch. I'm not telling you to do anything crazy. I'm telling you the truth is already in motion. And if you keep standing still, it's going to run you over." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. I paid for the coffee neither of us drank, walked out, and sat in my car with the door closed, staring straight ahead like the windshield was a movie screen. For a long minute, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just breathed like I was underwater. Then my phone buzzed with a text from my son. Thursday, 8 p.m. Don't be late. No, love you. No, you good. Just a command. I looked at that text, and then I looked at the photo again in my mind, and something settled in me. Not peace. Not rage. Something steadier. Like a decision forming. I drove home, but I didn't go inside right away. I sat in my driveway with my hands on the steering wheel thinking about every dollar I'd sent, every time I tried to keep the peace, every moment I'd swallowed my pride because I didn't want to lose my son. I finally went inside, walked straight to my study, and opened the drawer where I kept the folder Hollis had helped me organize after my wife died. The will, the deed, the trust language, copies of every bank transfer I'd made to my son. I laid it all out on my desk like evidence, because that's what it felt like now, evidence I'd been ignoring while I called it help. My wife used to say, "Marcus, a lie can live a long time when you keep feeding it." I realized I'd been feeding one. I pulled up my laptop and did something I never wanted to do. I searched her. Tosha Reed. Dallas Operations. I didn't even want to type it, like the act itself would make it permanent. But the truth was permanent already. The search results came fast. LinkedIn first. A professional headshot. Bright smile, confident eyes. The kind of woman who looks like she knows how to run a room without raising her voice. Her job title matched what Denise said. I clicked again and found an Instagram that wasn't private. My chest tightened as I scrolled. Brunch plates. Airport selfies. A short video at a concert. Then photos of city lights through a hotel window. Little captions about fresh starts and new chapters. I was about to close it when I saw it. 2 weeks ago, a photo in a bar, 2 drinks on a table. One hand in the frame with a watch I recognized instantly because I bought it for my son when he got promoted. He'd told me it was one of the proudest days of his life. I remembered how he'd hugged me, how he'd called me Dad like he meant it. And now that same watch was sitting next to her drink like a signature. My stomach rolled. I kept scrolling, and it got worse, not because there was a clear full-face photo of him, but because there were traces everywhere. His shoulder in a mirror, his hand on her waist, the edge of his jacket I'd seen 100 times. Signs for anyone who wasn't trying not to see. I shut the laptop and sat back, breathing hard, like I'd just run upstairs. Then I did the next thing that broke my heart. I thought about my grandson, about that little boy laughing on the rug, grabbing my finger with his tiny fist. If my son was building a whole second life, what did that mean for that child? For Bria? My mind went straight back to that dinner coming up. Thursday, 8 o'clock. The setup. Her mother there. The papers. The pressure. I realized something. They weren't just trying to get the house because it made things easier. They were trying to get it before anything blew up. Before Bria found out. Before the marriage cracked open. Before the truth made the paperwork harder. I stood up, paced my living room, and tried to pray, but my thoughts kept tripping over each other. I kept thinking about how my son could look me in the face and talk about family stability while he was out here doing this. And then I remembered Denise's words. The truth is already in motion. I sat down again, grabbed my phone, and opened my banking app. I went through my transfer history like I was auditing my own life. Wedding money, down payment, baby stuff, car help. Every time I'd labeled it something nice so it wouldn't feel like what it really was. A pipeline. I didn't know how I missed it. Or maybe I did know, and I just didn't want to admit it. Because admitting it meant admitting I raised a man who could take, and still feel justified. The sun had already started dropping when my phone rang. My heart jumped because a small, stupid part of me thought it might be my son calling to apologize. It wasn't him. It was Bria. I stared at her name on the screen like it was a warning label. She almost never called me directly. When she did, it was usually a quick, "Hey, can you pick something up?" or "We're running late." Never anything that sounded like emotion belonged in it. I answered anyway. "Hey, Bria," I said. Her breathing was uneven. Then her voice came through, thin and shaky. "Mr. Carter," she whispered, and I could hear she'd been crying. I need to talk to you." I stood up slowly, my chest tight. "What's going on?" I asked. She swallowed hard like she was trying to keep herself together. "Not on the phone," she said. "Please. Can I see you? I don't know who else to talk to." I closed my eyes for a second, because I just knew, that whatever she was about to say was going to change everything. "Yeah," I said quietly. "Come by tomorrow morning. 11. There was a pause, and then she let out a broken breath like relief. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you. I'll be there." I hung up and stood in my living room alone, listening to the silence settle back into the walls. I looked at my wife's ring on the dresser and felt my throat burn. "Baby," I murmured, voice cracking, "I think the storm just found me." At 11 the next morning, my doorbell rang right on time. That alone told me Bria was serious, because she was the kind of person who ran late on purpose, like the world was supposed to wait for her. I opened the door, and there she was, standing on my porch like she hadn't slept. No makeup, hair pulled back in a messy bun, eyes swollen and red. And behind her, parked crooked at the curb, was her little SUV with a baby seat in the back. She held my grandson against her chest in one arm, and in the other hand she gripped her phone like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Mr. Carter," she said, voice small, "I'm sorry to show up like this." I stepped aside. "Come in," I said. "You don't have to apologize for needing help." She walked in slow, like she expected the floor to disappear under her. My grandson was asleep, his cheek pressed into her shoulder, little mouth open just a bit. Seeing him like that cracked something in me, because no matter how messy grown folks get, babies don't deserve none of it. I closed the door, locked it out of habit, and led her to the living room. "You want tea?" I asked. "Water?" She shook her head fast. "No. I can't drink anything right now. I feel sick." She sat down on my couch carefully, like the cushions were made of glass. I sat across from her in the armchair, hands on my knees, waiting. I didn't want to push. But the silence was thick, and Bria kept staring at the floor like if she looked up she'd fall apart. Finally she took a shaky breath. "He's cheating," she said. Just like that. Straight out. No warm-up. No soft landing. My heart sank, even though I already knew. Still, hearing it from her mouth made it real in a different way. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. "How did you find out?" Bria laughed once, but it wasn't funny. It was bitter, tired. "I did the thing I swore I'd never do," she said. "I went through his phone." Her eyes filled again. "I know it's wrong. I know. But he's been acting off. Leaving early. Coming home smelling like cologne he doesn't even wear. Turning his phone face down. Getting mad over nothing." She wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand like she was angry at her own tears. "And last night he took a shower and left his phone on the counter. It lit up. A message popped up. I didn't mean to." She stopped, swallowed hard. "But I did. I nodded slowly. What did you see? She unlocked her phone with trembling fingers, opened a folder of screenshots, and turned the screen toward me. Her name is Tosha, she said, voice breaking. Tosha Reed. There it was. The same name I'd searched the night before. The same woman. The messages weren't sweet at first. They were casual. Then they got intimate fast. Pet names. Plans. A hotel confirmation. A photo I didn't want to look at. Bria's hands were shaking so bad the screen kept moving. I didn't read every word. I didn't need to. I looked up at her, and she looked away like she couldn't stand seeing what she'd just proven. How long? I asked. Over a year, she whispered. At least. He told her he was stuck in a marriage. He told her I was complicated. He told her he was just waiting for the right moment to leave. She swallowed again. Do you know what the right moment was? She looked up at me then, eyes sharp through the tears. The right moment was when he could get your house. My stomach turned hard. Bria, I started, but she held up her hand like she needed me to let her finish before she lost her nerve. It gets worse, she said. It's not just her. It's my mother too. That stopped me. Because I'd always blamed her mother for being loud and pushy and disrespectful, but hearing Bria say it like that, like betrayal, made me sit up straighter. Your mother? I asked. Bria nodded, lips trembling. My mama been in his ear from day one, she said, telling him how to handle you, what to say, when to pressure you, when to bring the baby around. She looked down at my grandson and her face twisted like pain. She told me to keep you at a distance because you'd control him with guilt. She told me you were lonely and you'd cling. I believed her. I feel sick even saying that out loud. I didn't jump in. I didn't defend myself. I just let her talk. Sometimes when somebody finally tells the truth, you don't interrupt it. Bria opened another set of screenshots. This time it wasn't my son and Tosha. It was a chat thread between my son and Bria's mother. Long, detailed, calculated. My chest tightened as I read pieces of it. Her mother coaching him like a manager. Push harder. Make it about the baby. Don't let him stall. Bring the papers already filled out. He's old. He's scared. Use that. Use that. I felt my jaw clench so tight my teeth hurt. Bria's voice turned flat, like she was numb now. When I confronted my mom, she said, she told me I was being dramatic. She said men cheat. She said the important part was keeping the family together and securing our future. She made air quotes with two shaky fingers. Our future meant your property. I stared at the phone, reading the last message she'd screenshotted. My son. Once he signs the house over, I can use it as collateral for the business idea in Dallas. Bria's mother. Good. That girl will stay if there's security. That girl. Not wife. Not mother of his child. Just that girl. Bria let out a broken sob and pressed her fist to her mouth to keep from making noise, like she didn't want to wake the baby. I didn't know, she whispered. I swear I didn't know it was like this. I knew my mama was controlling, but I didn't know she was planning my life like a bank heist. She looked up at me, eyes begging. And I know I wasn't kind to you. I know I let her disrespect you. I know I kept you away from your grandson. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I felt heat in my eyes, but I didn't let tears fall. Not because I didn't feel it. Because I had to stay steady. Somebody in this mess had to. Bria, I said, slow and firm, you don't have to earn basic respect by being perfect. And you don't have to carry all the blame because your mom allowed. I leaned forward. But I need you to hear me clearly. What he did is not your fault. She shook her head like she didn't believe it. I should have seen it, she whispered. I should have. Stop, I said, not harsh but strong. That man made choices. Every day. He made choices. Bria stared at her lap, breathing ragged. I don't know what to do, she said. I don't have savings like that. I haven't worked since the baby. I'm dependent on him. My mama says I should keep quiet and wait it out. She says if I leave, I'll be ruining my own life. I looked at my grandson again, still sleeping, innocent. What do you want? I asked. Not what she wants. Not what he wants. What do you want, Bria? Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. I want out, she said. I want to leave with my son and not feel like I'm dying inside every day. I want to stand on my own feet again. But I'm scared. I don't know how. I sat back and let the silence sit for a second, because what I was about to say mattered. My wife's voice came to me again, steady as ever. Don't hand people your peace just because they demand it. I nodded once, like I was agreeing with something inside myself. Okay, I said. Then we do this the right way. Bria blinked. What do you mean? I took a breath. You're gonna need a lawyer, I said. A real one. Not one your mother knows. Not one my son can charm. A real one who will protect you and protect that baby. Bria's eyes widened like I'd slapped her with hope. I can't afford. I know, I said. And I'm telling you I'm not gonna let you drown. Her mouth fell open. Mr. Carter, I can't take your money, she whispered. After everything. Listen, I said, voice low. This ain't about my pride. This ain't about keeping score. This is about my grandson having stability. This is about you being able to walk away with your head up. I paused. And it's also about doing what's right, even when it hurts. Bria started crying again, but this time it was quieter, like relief slipping out. Thank you, she whispered, over and over. Thank you. I stood up and grabbed a notepad from the side table. I'm going to make one call today, I said. And tomorrow morning we're going to sit with someone who knows the law better than all of us. You're going to bring these screenshots. You're going to bring anything you have. And you're going to stop letting your mama write your life. Bria nodded, wiping her cheeks. Okay, she said, voice shaky but real. Okay. I walked her to the door an hour later, helped her settle the baby in the car seat without waking him, and watched her pull off slow, like she was driving through fog. When the street went quiet again, I went back inside, closed the door, and stood there for a long moment in my hallway, listening to my own breathing. Then I walked straight to my study, picked up my phone, and called Hollis. When he answered, I didn't waste time. Hollis, I said, voice tight, I need to see you tomorrow. It's urgent. He paused. Marcus, what happened? I looked down at the folder on my desk, the one my wife helped me label years ago, and I said the only honest thing I could say. I finally opened my eyes. I barely slept. I kept hearing my wife's voice in my head, and seeing Bria's shaking hands holding that phone like it was a live wire. Around 6 in the morning I got up, made coffee I didn't even taste, and sat at my kitchen table staring at the same spot on the wood like answers might show up if I stared hard enough. By 8:30 I was dressed in my good coat, the one I wore to funerals and church and any place I needed to look like I had sense. I didn't call my son. I didn't text him. If I did, it would turn into an argument, and arguments are how people like him buy time. I needed facts. I needed a plan. Hollis's office was downtown in a building with old elevators and marble that looked clean but tired, like it had been holding up other people's problems for 100 years. I walked in, and the receptionist recognized me right away. That hurt more than I expected. It meant I'd been living steady long enough that folks could place me, could say, "Oh, that's Mr. Carter, the widower with the paid-off house." I didn't want to be anybody's easy label. Hollis came out a minute later, tall and sharp in his suit, glasses sitting low on his nose like he was always reading something even when he wasn't. He hugged me quick, man to man, then stepped back and looked at my face. "You look like you've been carrying bricks all night," he said. "Come on." He led me into his office and shut the door. I sat down, and he didn't start with small talk. He just waited, pen in hand, listening with his whole body. I told him everything. Not the dramatic version. The plain version. The pressure from my son. The paperwork he tried to slide in. Bria showing up with screenshots. The other woman. Bria's mother coaching him like it was a game plan. And the part that kept twisting my stomach, the way my son wrote it out like he was already spending money that wasn't his. Hollis didn't flinch. Not once. He just nodded slow and asked questions that made me realize how much I didn't know. "Has the deed ever been changed since you bought the house? Any liens? Any refinancing? Any power of attorney signed? Any documents you've given your son access to?" Every question felt like a flashlight. I answered carefully. "House is in my name only," I said. "No liens. No refinancing. I never signed power of attorney. I didn't give him anything but a key years ago, and I took that back last month when he started showing up unannounced." Hollis leaned back and exhaled. "Okay," he said. "That's good. That's a strong foundation. But don't relax." He tapped his pen on his desk. "People who plan like this don't stop just because you say no. They pivot." The word pivot made my skin crawl, because it sounded like business talk, like this was some little strategy session. But it was my life. My home. "What do I do?" I asked. Hollis opened a folder and slid a legal pad toward him. "First thing," he said, "we lock down your property. We can record a notice, we can set up additional protections depending on the state, and we can make sure no deed can be filed without serious scrutiny. Second, we update your estate plan today. Not next month. Not after the holidays. Today." I nodded. My throat felt tight. "I already have a will," I said. Hollis gave me a look. "When's the last time you updated it?" I stared at the floor. "After my wife died," I admitted. 7 years. He made a small sound like he expected that. "A lot changes in 7 years," he said gently. "And people change too." That hit me hard. People change too. I thought about my son as a little boy on my shoulders at the parade, laughing so loud strangers smiled at him. I thought about him standing next to my wife's casket, holding my arm like he was holding me up. And now here we were. Hollis kept talking, calm and clear. "Third," he said, "we document everything. Every text. Every voicemail. Every visit. Dates. Times. If he shows up at your door and you feel unsafe, you call the police. Not because you want him arrested. Because you want a record." I hated that. I hated the idea of calling the police on my own child. But I hated the idea of being quietly robbed even more. Hollis looked at me like he could read that fight on my face. "Marcus," he said, using my first name like he always did when he needed me to listen. Your son is already acting like you're not his father. He's acting like you're a resource. You have to respond to the reality you're living in, not the memory you're holding. I swallowed. What about Bria? I asked. She wants out. She's scared. She don't have money. Hollis nodded. She needs her own lawyer, he said. I can refer her to someone. A woman attorney I trust. Family law. Tough as nails. And you need to be careful how you support Bria. Not because helping is wrong, but because your son could twist it into interference, or try to paint you as controlling. We do it clean. We do it transparent. We do it the right way. That word, clean, was everything. I wasn't trying to win some ugly war. I just wanted my home safe and my grandson okay. Hollis stood up and walked to his window for a second, looking down at the street like he was thinking. Then he turned back. There's something else, he said. I want you ready for it. My stomach dropped. What? I asked. Hollis sat back down. When people get cornered, he said, they escalate. They lie bigger. They recruit more people. They may show up with tears. They may show up with anger. And sometimes they already started paperwork before you even knew there was a problem. My palms got sweaty. Did he start something? I asked. Hollis held my eyes. I don't know yet, he said. But I'm going to find out. I can pull public records. I can check for filings. And I want you to check something too. He slid a paper across the desk with a short list. Credit report. Property records. Any unexpected mail. Anything that looks like a loan offer or a bank statement you didn't request. And Marcus, don't sign anything. Not even something that looks simple. Not even if he says it's for the baby. I nodded. My jaw was tight again. Okay, I said. Okay. Hollis leaned forward, voice softer. You okay? He asked. And I almost laughed, because what kind of question is that when your own child is trying to take your house? But I understood what he meant. Was I still standing? Could I keep moving? I'm not okay, I said honestly. But I'm here. Hollis nodded like that was enough. We spent another hour going over documents. He asked me to bring my old will copy, my mortgage payoff papers, the deed, my ID, everything. I told him I'd go straight home and pull it all from my safe. Before I left, he walked me to the door, and right as I reached for the handle, he stopped me with one more sentence. Marcus, he said, I need you to prepare for the possibility that your son might already have come to see a lawyer. I froze. For what? I asked. Hollis didn't soften it. To challenge your capacity, he said. To claim you're not mentally fit to manage your affairs. To argue you're being manipulated. It's a tactic. My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. He would do that? I asked, even though I already knew the answer in my bones. Hollis opened his mouth to respond, but the receptionist knocked lightly and cracked the door. Mr. Hollis, she said, there's a call on line 2. He said it's urgent. It's your client's son. My breath caught. Hollis looked at me, then at the phone, and in that second I understood something clear and cold. Whatever my son was about to do next, he wasn't waiting for permission. Hollis held up one finger to the receptionist like, "Give me a second," then looked back at me, eyes steady. "You want to stay for this?" he asked. My first instinct was to say no, because the idea of hearing my own son try to play me through another grown man's phone line made my chest tighten. But then I remembered what Hollis said. Respond to the reality, not the memory. So I nodded. Put it on speaker, I said, surprising even myself. Hollis didn't argue. He picked up the desk phone, pressed a button, and said, Javier, then stopped, corrected himself, because that wasn't my son's name in this version of my life. Darius, he said, this is Hollis. A beat of silence, then my son's voice filled the office, too loud, too controlled, like he'd practiced it in the car before dialing. Mr. Hollis. Yeah, good. I'm glad I caught you. Hollis stayed calm. What can I do for you? My son cleared his throat. I need to talk about my father. Marcus Carter. The way he said my name, like I was a case file, made my stomach turn. Hollis glanced at me, then back at the phone. Marcus is here, he said. Another pause. I could almost hear my son doing math in his head, adjusting. Okay, my son said. That's fine. This concerns him. Hollis didn't move. Go ahead. My son took a breath. Look, I'm just trying to handle things the right way. My dad's been struggling. Ever since Mom passed, he's been isolated. He's making decisions out of fear. And there are people in his ear. I felt my jaw clench so hard it started to ache. People in my ear. Like I wasn't a grown man who'd been paying bills and raising a family since before he learned how to shave. Hollis's voice stayed measured. Darius, are you alleging your father lacks capacity? My son didn't answer directly. That's how I knew Hollis wasn't guessing. He was naming the play before it hit the field. I'm saying he's not himself, my son said. He's paranoid. He thinks everyone's trying to take from him. He won't listen to reason. And it's not just me. Bria's been acting strange too. Like she's turned against me overnight. Hollis leaned back slightly, pen poised. What is it you're requesting? My son's voice got smoother, the way it used to sound when he was asking for something big and trying to make it sound small. I think we need safeguards. A power of attorney. Just in case. So we can help him manage things. Protect him. You know. Make sure bills get paid. Make sure nobody scams him. I couldn't help it. A short laugh escaped my mouth, bitter and sharp. My son paused. Dad, he said, like he just realized I was a person again. Yeah, I said. I'm right here. He switched tones fast, like flipping a light. Why are you doing this? He asked. Why are you making it a fight? I'm not your enemy. I stared at the phone like I could see his face through it. You just asked my lawyer about power of attorney, I said. That's not help. That's control. No, he said quick. You twisting it. You always twist it. I'm trying to keep the family safe. Safe from who? I asked. From you losing your house because you forgot a payment? He snapped, and then caught himself, softened again. Dad, listen. You're 60-something. You live alone. That house is too much. What happens if you fall? What happens if you get sick? We need a plan. Hollis cut in, voice firm but polite. Darius, your father is competent. He's retained counsel. If he wants assistance, we can discuss limited arrangements that do not transfer control. My son exhaled hard into the phone. So you're on his side, he said. You're not even hearing me. Hollis didn't flinch. I'm on the side of the law, and my clients expressed wishes. Silence. Then my son tried another angle, lower, almost pleading. Dad, I'm your son. I'm all you got. That line used to work on me. It used to hit the soft part of my chest where my wife's memory lived. But after hearing what Bria showed me, after seeing the messages, after watching him show up with papers already prepared, it sounded less like love and more like a trap closing. "Don't do that," I said quietly. "Don't use loneliness like it's a weapon." His voice tightened. "So what? You picking Bria over me now?" "I'm picking truth," I said. "And I'm picking my grandson." He got quiet. Too quiet. And then he said something that made the air in Hollis's office feel colder. "If you won't do it willingly," my son said, "then I'll have to do what I have to do." Hollis's eyes narrowed. "Are you threatening legal action?" Hollis asked. My son didn't deny it. "I'm saying this can get messy," he replied. "And I don't want it messy. But Dad's being unreasonable." I leaned forward in my chair. "You know what's messy?" I said, voice steady even though my hands were shaking under the armrests. "A grown man trying to take his father's house while he's still alive." Another pause. Then my son's tone turned sharp, meaner than he probably intended to let slip. "You always think you know better," he said. "You always want control. Mom spoiled you, you know that? She made you think you could do no wrong." I felt something inside me split open and then seal back up, like my heart finally accepted what my head already knew. Hollis spoke again, clean and final. "Darius," he said, "do not contact my client about transferring property or signing any authority documents. All communication goes through my office. If you persist, we will document it." My son scoffed. "Wow. So that's how it is." "That's how it is," Hollis repeated. "Goodbye." He hung up without waiting for another word. The office went quiet except for the soft hum of the heater and the faint city noise outside. I sat there staring at the phone, feeling both relieved and sick. Hollis watched me for a second. "You did good," he said. "Now we move fast." I left his office with my head buzzing, like I'd walked out of a storm. On the drive home I kept replaying my son's voice. "If you won't do it willingly." I knew that meant he was going to try something. Maybe a petition. Maybe a welfare check. Maybe showing up at my door with tears and apologies. Or anger. I got home and went straight to my safe. I pulled every document I had, deed, payoff letter, old will, life insurance, everything, and laid it out on my dining table like I was building armor. I took screenshots of every text from my son, every missed call, every voicemail. I wrote down dates, times, what was said. It felt ridiculous, like I was preparing a case against my own blood, but I kept hearing Hollis's voice. Record, record, record. That night I didn't call Bria. I didn't have the energy to be anyone's anchor. I just sat on my couch with the TV on mute and my thoughts loud. The next 2 weeks moved slow and heavy. I changed my locks. I installed a camera. I stopped answering unknown numbers. And the whole time, I waited for the next shoe to drop. Sometimes I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to check on my son out of habit, and then I'd remember the way he tried to paint me as unstable to my own lawyer. The way he said safeguards, like it meant love. The way he threatened mess. By the second week, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. Space. Not loneliness. Space. Like I'd finally stopped holding my breath. And that's when the banging started. Hard. Fast. Like somebody was trying to break the door down. I froze with my book open in my lap, heart slamming. The camera on my phone showed my front porch. My son stood there with wild eyes and a face I didn't recognize, sweaty, panicked, shaking like he'd run the whole way. He leaned into the door and yelled, "Dad, please, open up." My hand hovered over the lock, and even before I touched it, I knew something had happened. Something big. Something that finally scared him more than losing my house.